In this video, our group is going to talk about the importance of location strategies and more specifically how its application can be beneficial for one of the sustainable development goals, and that is industry, innovation, and infrastructure. Our group consists of 5 people, namely Daryl Amadeo, Dal Parcelli, Brian Clarence Virawan, Hendardi Effendi, and Leonardo Iskandar. First off, we're going to talk about location strategy itself. Location strategy is a plan of business to either expand their operation or relocation if the current site shown unsatisfactory to the most optimum spot. It has several main goals based on its use of location. For example, industrial location will minimize costs, retail and service location will maximize revenue, while warehouse location will minimize costs and speed delivery. And the main objective of location strategy is basically to maximize the benefit of the location itself to the firm. And there are some considerations and factors that affect location decision, such as country, region and community, and site decisions. And first, the country factor. And it has several points, and that is political risk, government rules, and cultural and economic issues, locations of the markets, labor talent attitudes, productivity, and cost. Availability of supplies and communication and energy will also be put into the equation, and exchange rate and currency risk is also another. Region or community decision factor, it will include corporate desires, attractiveness of region, labor availability, cost and available utilities, regulations and policies, proximity of customers and materials, land and construction costs. While site decisions will cover site size and cost, transport system, restrictions, and the proximity of service and supplies, customer density, and demographics. And what are the benefits of location strategy? And having a good location strategy will allow us to obtain the optimal location aligned to our organization's vision and mission and needs and objectives. And it will allow our firm to maximize the opportunity while minimizing costs and risk. Now, good location decisions can boost a company's long-term performance, of course. And attracting, retaining talent, in most cases, will mean a city center location. And cities draw in increasing number of young people and international people. And these places will also become accessible. Industry, innovation, and infrastructure. Now, in attaining the goal, we will need to build resilient infrastructure and also promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization and foster innovation. Investment in infrastructure and innovation are drivers of economic growth and development. With over half the world population now living in cities, mass transport and renewable energy are becoming more and more important, and as are the growth of new industries and information and communication technologies. And technological progress is also a key to find everlasting solutions to both economic and environmental challenges, such as providing new jobs and promoting energy efficiency. Promoting sustainable industries and investing in scientific research and innovation are important ways to facilitate this sustainable development. And more than 4 billion people still do not have access to the internet, and 90% of them are from the developing world. And bridging this digital divide is crucial to ensure equal access to information and knowledge, and as well as fostering innovation and entrepreneurship. The benefits of us maximizing the innovation and infrastructure are, industrialization drives economic growth. It creates job opportunities and thereby reduces income poverty, impacting the local region's economic income due to the new innovation and infrastructure within the region. And also, infrastructure and innovation will boost the economic growth of the developing country. A proper example of a company that is contributing to the growth of infrastructure and innovation towards a certain region is Gudang Garam. The effect of Gudang Garam industry located in Kediri is benefiting the local region in economic with a very significant amount of fund from the company itself. And even the city government, Kediri, stated that they are not prepared to escape the economic dependence of them towards PT Gudang Garam. The cigarette company is listed as the largest contributor to the economic activities of Kediri. And so far, the government still relies on PT Gudang Garam as a contributor of 75% of the region's gross regional domestic product. And the average salary of Gudang Garam employees is 8.8 million. Due to the high salary of the employee, it makes the local market of goods consumption growing. If we are talking about a solution, in business view, location decision is the source of new market and profit. However, their impact could also benefit the community within the area, like Gudang Garam's factory in Kediri. There are countless undeveloped regions in Indonesia that need such businesses. For example, Kalimantan. Expansion and relocation means the birth of innovation and the growth of an infrastructure to a new region. New plants or factories open new job vacancies for locals, which inflicts economic growth. And as a location improved economically, and this will attract more local and even foreign investment, inflicting infrastructure development. And that is all from our group talking about the importance of location strategies and achieving one of the sustainable development goals, specifically industry, innovation, and infrastructure. Thank you.